What's up, Rockstars? Today I have a huge update for you guys. October is going to be insane. It has already started at the end of September. There's a ton of new stuff coming up. There's some stuff that's launched that I haven't even covered yet. There's some new stuff coming out next month. And then, of course, there's even some announcements for November that you want to keep an eye on. Additionally, there's a slew of information coming in from all of the other Kickstarters that we've been tracking. So let's go ahead and dive into that right now. As always, I'd like to start out with a huge thank you to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their support that this channel is possible. All of the stuff that I do for this channel and the quality and quantity that I do it at is because of them. It is an expensive thing to buy cameras and lenses and lighting equipment and sound equipment, and we're talking thousands of dollars, and that's not including the thousands of dollars here. I don't require game developers to back me. I require my community to be that support structure, and I think that's a much better deal for everybody. Additionally, I'd like to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I'll look for an explanation on that in a little bit. But without further ado, let's get diving in. Diving in sounds really stupid. Let's go ahead and just look at these Kickstarters. So this is an old Kickstarter, but I never saw it before, so I'm covering it now because you can late pledge it. This is by Bold Miniatures, and I can see why they call themselves Bold Miniatures. These busts are exquisite. First of all, they do a lot of talk about being legal and honestly, giving credit to the artists and getting their permission to do all this stuff. Now for STL files and printed, so for people who don't 3D print like me, I can still get the bust or the miniature. And these are fantastic. I am a sucker for any kind of facial expression on a face, whether it's a big orc grimacing or somebody laughing or this awesome chick here with like the little wink and everything. Like seriously, that is so cool. It brings so much life to the miniature. My favorite miniature out of all of Celestial is Nuwa. I think you might be able to see her in the dark, like over there. It's a little mermaid chick, but she has like this worried face on her, and it's that expression that does it for me. It's so awesome to see like actual facial features and expression and emotion in a miniature. So seeing stuff like this is just, look at that. Look how awesome that is. I would love to paint that. Oh my gosh, that is incredible. So much personality in there. Between the tied off armband and then the musical instrument and the cat and the expression, it's just wonderful. And then you get ones like her and just how happy she is, and she's like, like cheering on someone and all that. But you get down to the nitty gritty, like the ruffles around the jacket and stuff like that, and it's just great. The little bit of sword back there. It looks awesome. So I saw that you can actually buy these, and I wanted to let you guys know there will be a link to this and many, many more links. I'm talking a ton of links in the description. If you're interested in anything I'm covering, look in the description below. Chances are there's a link for you there that you can go and either further investigate it or buy it or inquire about it or follow it or whatever it might be. I put a ton of stuff in those descriptions. By the way, if you appreciate that effort, a like does help. All right, moving on from that. That is awesome. I love it, love it, love it. I could look like I would love to paint that. I'll probably get one of these because this looks great. And 80 millimeters high. That's a nice size bust too. That's really good. It's because it's not just like the chest up. It's like the whole torso, which is really, really good. Okay, moving on. Gatefall, Lost in the Northwoods. Gatefall is just now delivering to backers that originally backed it, and my patrons are going crazy over it. There's these big miniatures, and while the detail level is not the best at all, do not expect exquisite detail level. There actually is quite a bit. They're decent, and they're really big, which means they're actually fun to paint. I think anybody should paint. Anybody who paints a miniature should paint a 75mm miniature at some point. If you can do it with a nice resin bust or something like that. Those are fantastic, and then they are a joy to paint. But a lot of it's just the size, and you can get that with these. The game looks like a light skirmish game. I don't know much about that. I do like the art direction and the world they're going for here. Looks very cool. While I wouldn't expect these to be the best miniatures, like I'm a firm believer in good expectations. These will not blow you away with their detail. There'll be some muddy details and some soft textures and all that kind of stuff. However, they will be nice, they will be big, and they got what seems to be a decent game attached. So that's super cool. And again, the design is super neat. I love the sculpted bases and all that kind of stuff. It looks very cool. Look at that. You can get 3D printable files if you just want that. And then you can print them up to a great quality. $15. That's $5 a pop. That's a great deal. It looks interesting. It looks cool. So, and my patrons would have killed me if I didn't cover this. But no, seriously. It looks neat. And this guy, my understanding is he has a ton of ideas about this game and plans on supporting it for a long time, this Jack Dyer guy. So that's really nice to see. I am always a huge fan of supporting your games. We need less one-off games, unless it's truly meant to be a one-and-done unique experience, that's fine. But so often these companies abandon these games, and I don't like seeing that either. So anything that you can keep getting more oomph out of your purchase, your previous purchase, I think the better. So that's really cool. Next up is The Thing, the board game. This stealth launched. I didn't even realize it was on Kickstarter, but here we are. It's on Kickstarter. It's at over about 100,000 right now. It's got this weird upside down dude with tentacle eyes and a crab going on here, so that's cool. I didn't look too much into it. I like the color-coded rooms. I actually think that looks really nice. Anytime I see a bag, I always wonder the size. I wish there was a standard size version, because sometimes you get these really tiny ones that you scrunch in your hand, and sometimes you can actually reach in there and man grab it out, So that sounded weird, but you get what I'm saying. So you get standees and miniatures, so you can kind of choose and pick, it looks like here, which is kind of nice. And the miniatures look decent enough. Again, they're just renders. I can't tell off the renders. You never know how that's going to look, but they seem okay. That being said, they're not highlighting it at all. There's no showcase of them or anything like that. So gotta wonder how the end result's going to be there. So fair warning. However, it is officially The Thing, the board game. That's about as official as you can get. Also, it seems like it's kind of like a base building Battlestar Galactica, and considering Battlestar Galactica has been abandoned and it's expensive, this might be a nice alternative. If you liked that, you definitely want to look into this. Moving on, Return to Planet Apocalypse. This is Planet Apocalypse 2 from Sandy Petersen. Sandy Petersen, at 32, created, definitely believes in making campaigns and then games eventually. From what I can tell, he always does deliver on the games, and from what I can tell, the games are decent to good. So I'm not really complaining too much there, though I think you should definitely slow down, Sandy, and work on delivering some of these games instead of making a campaign every other month, it seems like. I think he makes 6 campaigns a year, as far as I can tell. He makes a ton. I've already talked about the design style that they do, where they do impossible designs, and honestly, you're going to hear that a few times from me in this update. I'm getting kind of sick and tired of it. It's a pet peeve of mine, and I want to see change in that. So I'll be talking about it more and more and complaining about it more and more until hopefully eventually someday we get more realistic. Because again, it's all about expectations. Set the right expectations. Show what you think your miniatures will look like, what they honestly will look like. And then everybody who gets it can be like, hey, look, it's the exact thing I backed, versus, oh yeah, I guess it's if a 2-year-old drew it. I mean, not that bad, but the design though, look at this thing. It's like a freaking mouth and they're coming out of it, and she's like, oh, that is a freaking cool looking miniature. And then I looked at this one and he's literally off the base. The base will not even exist there. Great, the ideas and the designs, the sculpt design of them is super, super cool. They could just be a little bit more realistic. And I think that's kind of my one bummer about that. It just, some of them just do not work. There's either too skinny parts or too much crammed in detail. Because if you look at the end model, you'll see kind of what I'm talking about. But stuff like that, the super skinny sword, it's not going to be like that, right? It's just not. Don't pretend it is. So it is what it is. Because again, the renders look great, but again, we're buying miniatures, not renders. I'm not buying a digital file. I'm buying something that looks like that. And as you can see, this is the detail you should expect. So props to them for taking pictures of their actual miniatures. And some of these, especially the bigger ones, like this Cockademon here, look great. I mean, I think they honestly look good. I've seen these painted up, and they actually paint up quite well as well. I don't think they're bad miniatures per se, but they can be a little plain. So the texture here is very lackluster in my opinion. It's almost below quality, but design wise they look great. They're normally multi-piece. Also, one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at miniatures in different colors is a lot of colors, especially bright colors or dark colors, do not show the detail as well. So if you see a yellow colored one or something like that, if you primed it gray, you would see more detail, which is just almost universally the case. So props on him for using actual miniatures. So this is kind of what you could expect. Again, not bad, just not quite at that render level, right? It's not quite, but otherwise they look good. So just maybe a little bit work in the kind of render department and making sure that you're rendering thinking of the end miniature. Okay, moving on. By the way, this dude being held up by all the people, if you can pull that off, that's sweet. I don't know how that's going to work, but I guess we'll see. Machina, I said it right, Arcana, is To Eternity is this one, is the 3rd edition of this on Kickstarter, and it looks good. In fact, this is probably one I will, in fact, back. I need to look at it more. I'm very big. I'm not in a hurry. I would definitely want to make sure I do what I do to get something worthwhile that I'll actually play. There is a Tabletopia you can play it on. There's a Tabletop Simulator you can play it on. So it doesn't matter if you have the free one or not. You can do Tabletopia in a web browser. But you click that and it probably takes you right there. So that's super great. It's been out for a while, so there's a lot of reviews and unboxings and stuff like that. This art, I would pay money for that on a shirt. I want a freaking black shirt with just that on it, like some like death metal shirt. Like that would be freaking killer. That's a sweet, sweet design. I love everything about that. That is awesome. Spiders, everybody loves spiders, right? Especially ones with like open backs, weird stuff. The art style looks great. Also, I checked the previous Kickstarters and they didn't just re-upload all the same images, which is great. They have been redone, kind of retooled and resized, and I think it's looking better than even the first one or the second one or whatever. Definitely some improvement there. Look at that. Look, just the idea of what I'm seeing there is so cool. Like, I just love the idea behind a lot of these. So just, this speaks to me. I like grimdark. I like kind of gringy sci-fi techno kind of stuff. This codex with 170 pages of lore and art, yes, I want these. That is what I'm all about here. It looks great. It looks good. I've heard some people love it, some people didn't like it as much. It might be a little random. We'll see. I guess I'll see, but I'll probably end up getting it, and I guess I'll judge that on myself. Next up, we have Heroquest. You guys have already seen my spiel about this, so, don't... I'm not going to repeat the same thing. If you would like to spend $100 on the exact same game from the 80s with the fancy roll to move and all those wonderful rules that you love and adore, but with better minis and worse art, plus shipping, there you go. You can spend $130 on that if you wish. I know for some people, they're going to do it. It's nostalgia. I get it. I don't speak for everybody. That sounds like a terrible idea to me. I don't want to spend $130 to get a game from the 80s that doesn't play as well as we might remember it, with worse art and maybe better minis. Just not interested, like, at all. I imagine a lot of people are going to back this and cover it and get all the views and get all the painting views and do all that stuff and get... I don't care. I am tempted to get it just so I can say that I have played Heroquest and so I can compare things to it, because, again, I'm newer to the hobby and so I don't have that experience. Let me know in the comments below if I should take one for the team. This is the kind of stuff, by the way, that my patrons and stuff help with, where I spend $130 on a game just for the channel, just for me being a better reviewer and having more to kind of, it's like why I Kingdom Death Monsters. This is something I should experience so that I have that in my headspace so that I can compare and contrast and talk about it with somebody. I feel like that's something I should maybe do. So let me know in the comments below if you want to see this on the channel. It has roll to move. I'm assuming it's not like they tell you anything about it, but the original one did. So I probably won't like it. That sounds terrible. Maybe I will. I don't know. Let me know. Seriously, I don't plan on backing this, but you guys can convince me otherwise if that's something that you think would be of value to you. And again, if I do, thank you to my patrons and YouTube members for their support. Okay, moving on. I got really laggy here. All right, moving on. We have the 7th Citadel. Now, I want to get a lot of flack out of this too, so hear me out. The gameplay looks cool. It looks sweet. The map looks awesome. I dig that. Even this weird, like, face tunnel thing going on here, I dig. And obviously a lot of other people do too. 14,600 backers at over 1.1 million, not even 24 hours in. Seriously, this is what happens when you make a game people love, deliver it, make the customer happy, and then say, here's some more, right? It's that simple. It's not hard. All these one-offs and rush deliveries and quick campaigns and let's just get some quick money here and some quick money there and then abandon it and not care about it anymore and not make it better and not build a base of people that the moment Serious Pulp launches something, they're there to back it. Let's not do that as a company. Like, this is how you do it, and props to Serious Pulp for doing that. I don't like the art. I like the art on the map. I think this is great, right? This looks cool and it's got a cool design. The character art makes me think Napoleon Dynamite did it. And now I'm not saying that he spent a lot of time shading the upper lip, mainly because it doesn't like to spend a lot of time shading the upper lip. I get it, and I'm sorry to the artist. I know it's hard to hear feedback or anything like that, or I guess hard criticism like that. I don't like it at all. I think it looks bad. So I'm just trying to be honest here with you. I love the art of the world. I think this looks great. Everything else I see, this looks awesome. This to me looks like a high school freshman made it on his off time as, like during recess or something. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. It looks bad to me. It really doesn't. It definitely doesn't look like a multi-million-dollar revenue company made it, where they've made literally millions in revenue, and then they produce art that looks like that. Is just surprising to me, I guess. Maybe it's just a style I don't like. I don't know, but I can't get over it. With that being said, I could not stare at that for hours. It's not... Board games are inherently something physical, right? That's why I'm big on not making it digital. It's something I interact with and I look at and I hold and I use and I pretend to be and all this kind of stuff for hours with my friends and family. And so if I don't like how something looks, I don't necessarily want to stare at it for 3 hours on a Saturday evening. And this stuff, again, I think the rest looks great. It's just that character design, and I don't know why it's like that, but it's kind of a bummer because I want to get in on this, but I know that's not for me, and I would just it's just not something I see myself doing. But to everybody else who likes it, good for you, and good on Serious Pulp. Seriously, for just being awesome and doing good stuff for the board game industry. Props for that. Next up, we have Fray, Champions of the Everyverse. This was on Kickstarter. It failed. It's coming back September 29th. So this is coming out here very soon. If we go back to perhaps look at the page a little bit, this is by Brain Sandwich Games. I actually have their previous Kickstarter, which was just a fun little apples to apples thing, but for work emails, and I played it at work, and it was funny. But it's got some really cool looking designs to it, because again, it is kind of a mix. So you can be the cowboy, or you can be the orc versus the tinkerer with a turret gun, and you can have all these different characters. Now, they're simple. If the detail's nice, all that means is it'll paint up nice. I don't mind the design of them, as long as, again, it works. So, like those intricate gears there, is that going to be a thing? If it is, great. If not, don't put it in the render. Or even just like this advanced belt buckle here, stuff like that. I guess we'll see. This looks pretty skinny. Don't know. Are you going to make it like that? Is that going to be in the miniature? Again, that miniature's going to be that big. It's going to be that skinny? Is that valve going to be that skinny? It's going to bend on me? If not, don't put it in the render. Don't do it. I know I just said, like, hey, this might be nice. But seriously, like, in general, I think these look good. And I'm actually okay for it. I like the variety of them. They're not the best sculpted when it comes to pose. Like, that's a very robotic arm. It's a very kind of right angle box. It isn't natural. It's not exactly the most professional stuff you've ever seen. You're going to see some really good miniatures here. Don't worry. But I think for what it is, I think it's a cool idea. So I wish them luck. Next up, we have Townsfolk Tussle. I have that right there. You'll be seeing a review of that soon. Closer to the October 20th date, actually, though. They were like, hey, can you do it kind of close to it? And I was like, well, yeah, sure, why not? So that just gives me more time to play it. I'll probably be open about my opinions on it, especially over on my Patreon, on my Discord. I'm an open book over there. But either way, I look forward to playing it, providing my feedback and kind of my idea on it. And then, of course, you'll see that for the campaign itself. Moving on, we have the kind of Dire Alliance / Horror Series 1 stuff from Blacklist Miniatures and Blacklist Games. This is in kind of response to their fantasy one that they did. Now they're going to do a horror one. And again, they're going to attach it to a board game, which I think is cool. I think that's awesome. Now, Blacklist is not known for their miniatures. I would love to see how the fantasy ones turned out before really getting into the horror ones. And hopefully there's been an increase in quality there, but perhaps not, I don't know. Either way, October 27th, that's going to be on there. I will say I like the theme around this a lot, and the characters seem quite goofy and charismatic, I guess, is almost what you could say. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to talk about Skillshare. Now, I will provide a timestamp, so if you don't want to see this, I understand. Instead of you thumbing around and catching me mid-sentence, there's a way to skip that. But I would ask that you hear me out because I actually try to make this a little applicable. I'm just honest. When I start, and in fact, you're going to hear a cool story here. When I first started Kickstarter, the reason... I'm already messing up. When I first started YouTube, the reason I started YouTube is because I didn't find anything for me. And I guess I should explain that. I was just starting to get into board games and I wanted to paint the miniatures. I had Descent 2nd edition. I was painting the miniatures there. And I wasn't painting it very good, to say the least. And so I was kind of looking online, hey, is anybody else painting these or whatever? And I didn't really see anybody painting these. This was actually even before like Sarastro became really big and stuff. But I did see people painting like Warhammer stuff and just stuff in general, right? But these people were using like $300 airbrush setups and they were spending 18 hours on a miniature or just like an hour and a half on a video just doing non-metallic metal on a shoulder pad and stuff like that. It looked great, but it wasn't applicable to me. I'm just an average guy, right? And I was talking to my wife, I was complaining to her about this. I was saying like, oh, you know what? It just sucks because all of YouTube, and there's not really a lot there for me because I can't follow these professionals like explaining it to me like I'm ever going to do 2-brush blending or whatever junk that. I'm never holding 2 brushes in the same hand ever. It's not going to happen. That's weird. So again, like it was cool to see. It was entertaining to see and amazing to see their skill. I'm not that skillful. I'm not going to do any advanced techniques. I just want to paint a miniature, make it look kind of nice. And she said that it was kind of similar to a lot of her like makeup tutorials and stuff like that. That these people would spend $100 in makeup and spend 3 hours in this like montage video because they're making a video, not really making it, you know, to go to the grocery store or something like that. So there was kind of that gap between what's real and what's not. She said she found some people that were just, here's a mom putting on her makeup and talking about how she does it and how useful that was. My last name is King, and so I was like, well, okay, King of Average, and I'll just do painting videos. And in fact, that's what I started with. Here's my first painting video. I just started painting miniatures and kind of showing, okay, here's my basic stuff. I'm not doing a lot of advanced techniques, but I think it looked kind of nice, at least at the time. But I did everything. I was all over the place. And I was looking at this, it's called Art of the Start, Turning Ideas into a High Growth Business. Well, I'm not trying to go into a high growth business. There's a lot of benefit I've seen from this. Some of it is from my own research that I spent hours doing. And this is, of course, an hour and 31 minutes total. This is a really good watch. I watched it and I enjoyed it. Some of the best stuff I can tell you, like I know a lot of people are wanting to get into YouTube or just to somehow share their creativity, right? A lot of us are miniature painters. A lot of us are opinionated board gamers, especially here on this channel. I know some people on my Patreon would like to start doing streaming or YouTube. I've known people who've contacted me saying, hey, I want to get into YouTube. I've seen people kind of up and coming say, hey, I was inspired by you or I was inspired by these other people and I'm trying to do this stuff. And I think it's great. I would highly suggest you follow the link down below. Seriously, the first 1,000 people, you just sign up for it and then you get it for like 2 months. It's awesome. You'll love it. Because you can just see something like this, even if you just cancel right afterwards. So there is a lot of other stuff on here. But this is great. So for instance, the second one here, Make Meaning, I think was great. They're talking about making meaning, not money. So when I started this, I'm not trying to make a ton of money. I'm just trying to provide something that helps people out, that makes the world that much tiny bit better for some people. If you're into the board game hobby and you like this kind of stuff, I hope I benefit that in some way. I hope that you benefit from me being here in some way. I thought that was huge. The fact that they start out by saying, don't go in it for money, go in it to actually solve a problem, to provide meaning, to provide purpose, and then the money can kind of come afterwards. And I think that resonated with me a ton. It really did. The other one here was Don't Worry, Be Crappy. I loved that. You know, they get the whole song, you know, don't worry, be happy. This Don't Worry, Be Crappy. And again, I started out bad. You just gotta have to do it, right? I was doing everything. Look at that. I'm freaking showing off my Christmas presents to my kids. I mean, nobody cares about that junk, right? Eventually, though, I did a details video on hate and it hit 10,000 views. It just like exploded. And I was like, wow, this is something that people really enjoy seeing, this kind of like informational stuff like that. And I've kind of just naturally led to something that I can provide that the market appreciates. And a lot of that is covered here. Seriously, it's great. I'm going to actually link to this specific one as well for you guys. It's a good thing just to listen to in the background. And of course, a ton of other stuff. We have neo-morphosis Infestation. October 27th, that's coming out, so you should see that soon. Oh, I forgot to mention that this is also October 27th. I think I may have mentioned that, but if not, it's right there anyway, October 27th. Same with the second iteration of Neo-morphosis Infestation, their second attempt at it. They added some more stuff. They changed a few things a little bit, so I wish them luck in it, because I think Dark Rituals looks cool, and I like the fact that they're trying something different thematically, not just kind of sticking with the same thing. Probably keeps that creative juices flowing a little bit, which I hope is encouraged. Next up, we have Nova Aetas Renaissance. Again, I'm sure I'm butchering that, from Ludus Magnus Studio. This will be launching here very soon, actually, and by the looks of it... Oh, okay, so I gave Ludus Magnus Studio a lot of crap for doing stupid stuff like charging people, again, for shipping, for extra shipping. Nobody else really did that. It was pretty much just them, maybe a couple others, but seriously, they were kind of the prime example of, here's how not to do it, right? It kind of sucked. Especially just because of how they treat it, right? Ideally, if you're asking somebody for more money, you're a little bit more humble and respectful about it. I didn't really get any humbleness or respectfulness out of it. It was very much a, hey, give us more money for your stuff. But, this actually looks pretty cool. I didn't really care a huge amount for Black Rose Wars. It was okay. It's all right. It scratches a lot of those Magic the Gathering itches of mine that I tend to have. I get itchy all over from Magic the Gathering. But it wasn't everything I'd hoped it would be, right? But then I played DEI, and DEI didn't do as good on Kickstarter, but I loved it. DEI is fun. Me and my wife played that multiple times, even after the review. It's actually a very enjoyable game. So that gives me hope for the games. I'm not against their games or anything like that. This, and I'll get back to these miniatures, but I want to see some positive first. That sounds terrible. The 3D elements, you guys know I'm a sucker for that. Look at that. Hold on, wait, there's even a better picture here. Where's that at? Where's it at? Is it here? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's here. No, it's not. Don't look at that. I am all about the 3D elements. That looks like a lot of fun. Honestly, a lot of these components look really good. The map looks great too. I love the campaign map. Rulebook campaign book. I hope they post that so we can read it up front. That'd be great. Looks like they're going to have a lot of like previews and stuff. I think most of these are probably paid for. That tends to be the case in this industry. But, whatever. It looks nice. I'm definitely actually interested. I love, by the way, this clamp design. Notice this was from Claustrophobia, which is right there. There's Claustrophobia. Claustrophobia 1643 by Monolith. They had that kind of clamp design with the overlay, so you only need to provide the 4, and you can slot it in all of them. It's much... I don't know if it's necessarily cheaper because it's obviously more advanced, but it's definitely nicer to store and stuff like that because you just have the character sheets and they slide right in there. Either way, it's a slick design. I said back when I unboxed that and looked at that was going to catch on, that it works great there. I'm glad to see it done here. I'm sure it'll work great here as well. So that's awesome. I love seeing that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the miniatures. I actually have confirmation from the sculptors themselves that they do not sculpt with the end result in mind. They are not sculpting based off of a miniature, they're sculpting based off of a sculpt. Which is cool, but it also means it's unrealistic, which I hate. I want, again, proper expectations. Expectations that are set properly make happy backers. Expectations that aren't set properly make upset and disappointed backers. Or maybe pleasantly surprised, but at that point you did something way wrong. Ideally you're overselling versus underselling. So when you see skinny weapons like this that might be thickened, or where you're seeing little tiny details, I can't even zoom in to see what junk that is, a lot of this will change. These are not sculpted to be realistic. Again, you're backing for miniatures, not renders. They're not delivering you some renders. They're delivering you tiny little plastic people. So keep that in mind. I think they'll be nice miniatures. I don't think the Black Rose Wars miniatures are bad. They're not perfect, but they're not bad. But just FYI, when you're looking at the renders, when you're looking at all that, keep, again, proper expectations. They will be about anywhere from probably 6 to 20% loss in detail. So there you go. Moving on. I already kind of spoiled this. Agents of Smersh. Epic Edition. That's coming out soon. It looks goofy. It looks silly. I don't know what's up with the Kill Bill chick. I don't know what's up with the old Wolverine businessman. I don't know what's up with the Deadpool face mask guy. But, whatever. It looks silly. So I look forward to hearing more about that because I could use a silly game. Dragori Games is coming out with an RPG. This will actually be a 5e D&D RPG, but apparently there's going to be more than that. I don't know what the more than that is, though I do know that they are going to be coming out with miniatures and stuff too. In fact, 4 new classes, new races, monsters, lots of NPCs, a dystopian scenario with classic high fantasy, astonishingly huge map, world, and imperial capital, and of course, amazing miniatures. That's right, there will be miniatures, which means I'm interested. Now, because they went from really bad miniatures to really good miniatures, and I love seeing that reaction to them. I love seeing hey, your game's great, this is a sore spot on it, to, okay, let's make that great too. I think that's awesome. So, color me interested. That, and I love RPG books. A lot of these books up here are just nerd books. They're just art books and RPG books and lore books and stuff like that. I don't even play RPGs. Like, I'm not a pen and paper D&D kind of guy, but I love reading all about the worlds and stuff like that. I just think they make good coffee table books, as it were. It would be great reading material if you ever forgot your phone in the bathroom. Speaking of RPGs, Batman, they're doing an RPG. Look at that. So they're a little bit more in like the scribbled art section of it right now. I don't know what that means about necessarily when it's coming out, though I feel like it's coming out soon. However, they're also going to be talking about Mythic Battles Ragnarok, and in fact, they even say as much somewhere. Well, I think they said in their Facebook update, which I don't know if I pulled up yet. But there's a lot of stuff here. You can read about it. You can read about all the stuff that you can do in the RPG. I think that's great. That's super cool. And then again, they're teasing kind of the Mythic Battles Ragnarok stuff as well. Legions of Steel by Raybox is coming in October for a new Kickstarter. So my understanding is these are going to be new miniatures, new sculpts, and kind of a board game setting, which I think sounds pretty cool to me. I know there's a lot of people that have played this for years, and so I think that's cool that they're doing kind of a reboot on the skirmish game. Okay, I want to highlight this. This is Bloodborne by Kumani or Not. Come on. This right here, I'm just going to read it and then I'll talk. Any mechanic from the video game that didn't make it into the board game that you regret. So this is just kind of a Q&A thing. They're talking to, I'm assuming, Mike Schnall here. He said blood gems were an idea that was toyed with, but eventually got cut. That's a matter of lots of cool ideas, but you want to avoid content bloat. It's always a hard analysis when you come down to it. So many cool ideas, but you have to consider what is this bringing to the game. You start by gathering up all the cool ideas, but then begin trimming more and more down, cutting the fat. It begins easy enough, but eventually you hit the point where you have to make hard calls about what stays and what goes. In the end, blood gems got the chopping block. Now, I want to talk about this because I think this is important. This is a sign, in my opinion, of a good game design process. It really is. When we play board games, we don't play the 6 out of 10. A 6 out of 10 is above average, right? It's like, hey, this isn't bad, but this doesn't mean it's going to fly off the shelf, right? Tanares, if I go back to this, I'm going to click on Dragori Games here. I'll click in there. They have a slogan, 4 tables, not shelves. I think that's a great slogan, by the way. My point being is that when my buddies come over and they're looking at this, they're not going to, hey, do you want to play that? I guess we could play that, right? It's, oh my gosh, this is my favorite. It's a 9 or a 10, right? It's just what we end up playing with. It's how the nature of things are. When you're playing for 3-4 hours and it's a Saturday and everybody had to drive over here to come there and it's our one time this week to play, you're not going to waste that one time playing something you know isn't as enjoyable as something that's better. It's just not what you're going to do. So with that in mind, you want the cream of the crop when it comes to game design. If your game is good, but there's this other part that's not so great that we got to deal with this village phase, or we got to deal with this, currency issue, or whatever it might be, cut that out. I think that's great. Streamlined is good in my opinion. I love streamlined games. I like games that have like pillars when it comes to mechanics, and then having those interact in a nuanced way versus a whole bunch of little bits. Definitely what I prefer. So I think that's great that they did that. I know that's hard, but anytime a movie or a book is better because of the editor, typically, same thing here. It just ends up being better by saying, you know what, this is probably an okay mechanic, but it's not making this game better, and so let's cut it. I think that's awesome, and I support that 100%. Good job on that. I'd say a lot of bad about Come On. There's a good thing about it, okay? They do good stuff too. Sea of Legends, the PM is open. Here it is. Look, you can back it. I don't think I talked about that before, so again, link in the description below to that. Okay, this is actually big. So this has been the long-teased, like, Goddess of Death for Sankokushin. This is going to be of their 75mm campaign in November. So this will be a November one. But if you look down here, 140mm with this like crazy base. And again, it's like the little things I appreciate. Like I really appreciate the upturned head and the wider jawline. She's supposed to be kind of like controlling and snobbish and all that kind of stuff. And whenever I see that in the sculpt design, I think that's super cool. So anyway, we'll see what the whole thing looks like soon, but finally it was revealed, and that'll be in November. I will probably get a copy of this, I hope, to show to you guys. I think that's probably going to be a thing. If not, bug them about it, I guess. But either way, that's what you're going to get from Sankokushin before you actually get the game itself. Chip Theory Games has this Burncycle coming in November, so be on the lookout for that. It's going to be coming out. Again, I don't know much about it except this. But this thing spins when you scroll. So there's that. Okay, next is... this is what I wanted to talk about. This is what I was thinking I had with Monolith. So they did mention Season 3 of Batman. So that's a thing. And they're going to be talking about that in the coming parts, right? They did a lot of this for Batman Day. But they, as far as I know, they own the rights to DC. And that means comics, movies, TV shows, whatever. Means they could probably do like a Lego Batman if they really wanted to. I would love a 66 Batman version. I want a 66 expansion that has Adam West Batman and, you know, Robin and Catwoman and the Penguin and the Riddler and all that. That would be awesome. Even with like the car there and stuff like that. I think that'd be great. It could even come as like a shark on a ladder and there was something silly like that. I think that'd be awesome. But they could do a ton of stuff. There's still a plethora of stuff that they could cover. Batman is a huge mythos, and so I think that's pretty cool. And if nothing else, just more maps and more scenarios and more stuff like that. They did mention, though, here, right here, this is talking about how next week they're going to be talking about Ragnarok. So I will have a news video once that happens covering Ragnarok and whatever else news is going on. Okay, next up. Again... this is a render for ISS Vanguard. I have two of them here that Marcin posted. I think the design concept and the design direction is super cool. I would love to paint these up. I think that will be really, really cool there. And I appreciate the better detail and better sculpts that they've been doing recently. However, again, they do not sculpt based off the miniature. And that's painfully obvious. So for instance, looking at this gun, right? And I'm going to teach you guys a little bit of kind of some things to look at. So there's a pull direction, right? Which means it's kind of like an ice cube tray, right? So you fill it in and there's detail here, and then you put the other half of the mold on, and there's detail up here, and then you take it apart, and that's where you get that seam line is right in the middle there, right? And you fill it in or whatever. But there's a pull direction, right? Where there can't be negative space on the other side, right? And so this gun, with how it's designed, you can't really get a pull direction, you know, long ways or anything like that. So you'd have to kind of go sideways on it. However, it gets really skinny here. So that sideways, each half would be kind of thin there. I'm a little debated about that, especially with the inner part here. You can do it, but it's going to be a little difficult. The worst part, though, is really this other one. So here's another one here. And again, I think design is very interesting. It's a very weird pose. I'm not sure if she's sitting on something. Well, I almost want to see falling over while looking at this plane. I don't know. But look how skinny that point is right there. See how skinny that is? That's just silly. That's not going to be... No, they're going to fill that in or thicken that up or do something. Don't render it. I don't know why a digital sculptor working for a board game company that knows that they're making stuff this big is worried about is not worried about how skinny some of the stuff they're making is. That's silly. Don't sculpt that. You're telling me that this whole thing here is going to be supported by the arm, and that there's going to be these two little skinny pieces here, and that's not going to bend or break or do anything like that? Really? I think you're lying. And of course, you get the tiny little details, like there's a little hole there, right? And there's a little bit of inner workings right here. You kind of see it come in there where there are two different panels there, and I just want people to make renders with the miniature in mind. Sculpt it from that way. All your sculptors should just be surrounded by miniatures, similar miniatures, right? You should have like a whole bunch of robot miniatures from different companies, or better yet, from the manufacturer you know you're going to use. If you're going to use the Aster or Aster or whatever it is, if you're going to use them, have some of your Nemesis minis out there and see how they turned out. And, okay, well, yeah, that didn't really work there, so I'm going to make sure not to sculpt it that way or whatever. So, are we going to get this crazy level of detail on the shoe, especially this like thin line right here on the... just make... I love the design. I think it's sweet. I think the game is looking interesting. I just wish there was more honesty in renders. Renders are pretty much a lie at this point. It seems to be going the wrong way. I want it to be going the other way. Moving on, we have Bardsung. This is by SFG. They got rid of Guild Ball. They still have God Tier. This is going to be an original IP from them. I think that's great. This is going to be coming out in November, and it's a roguelike RPG. And what that means is essentially it's a randomly generated RPG, but you're still doing kind of the choose your own adventure kind of story bits. I don't know if that's in between the random generation or because of the random generation or whatever, but either way, it sounds kind of interesting. It looks, though, I love the design of it. Looks interesting and looks cool. So again, are we going to get multi-layered chain link here, right? Are we going to get... I can't zoom. I hate when that happens. Can I open a new tab? Can I just do that? Let me zoom in on you. There we go. All right. Are we going to get it where there's like an interlinked chain here? You tell me. Are we going to get a cracked thumbnail there? You tell me. It's I have seen SFG minis. You are not going to be getting the cracked thumbnail. I apologize. I'm sorry. I hope you weren't backing for that. Now, I get that's a little detail, but your eye takes in every little detail. Whether you focus on it or not, your eye interprets it and your brain interprets it even subconsciously to either look cool or look bad or look realistic or not. So anyway, again with those sculpts, I told you you're going to hear it a whole bunch. It's my thing right now. I want to see it changed. Make minis, not renders. Make games, not campaigns. Make minis, not renders. Anyway, we don't know too much about it. There's not a lot even teased here, but it looks like what we know of it sounds generic, right? I'm sure it's not, but we don't know like actual game mechanics, so we'll have to find out. But that'll be in November. I'm sure they'll be releasing more information here soon about it, and of course I will cover it maybe in that next week's Kickstarter update, perhaps even. So anyway, that's it. That's all I had for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the update. I told you it was going to be a long one. I told you, hopefully I didn't get too annoying with that render stuff. But seriously, thanks so much for watching. I always appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again soon.